Yeah, I hesitate to make any proclamations of anything like that, but I've just been really happy with the way that Will's progressed. He's played winning football from that position really over the last 3 weeks, and it's just like to see it continue. And I think there's some things for Will that he can do better. There's a couple of things, just even progression-wise for him, or getting his eyes to the right spot faster, to where he could play really well. He played a really good football game. I think there's another level for him when it comes to finding the completion, taking less sacks. Some of those things were situational. I know one or two of them we were sort of in field goal range, and I was very kind of strictly instructed him to, make sure we're being smart with the football, and he's just trying to make sure we didn't take any major losses. So one or two of those, he just sort of runs up in the pocket. But yeah, I think everything that he's done, the progression he's shown, the growth that he's shown, is really encouraging, and I like to keep it going. And I think there's still, again, another level that we can get to and unlock from him. So
early in the season about some of the
couple things, injury-wise first, nothing to report that's of any significance. We came out of the game pretty clean, which is positive. We'll see how some of these guys come back that have been out. We will open Cheeto's window this week to return to practice. That doesn't necessarily mean he'll return to the roster to play this week. We'll see where he's at, let him practice, see where he goes from there. Hopefully that's a shorter than the full allotment of 3 weeks, but we'll just see where he's at. And then just on the game, a lot of the things that I felt last night I still feel today. There's a lot of really, really good things that happened in all three phases. But there's still plenty of things that we got to do better and clean up. We haven't arrived by any stretch. It was a good win, good road win against a divisional team. I thought the guys played a winning brand of football for most of the game, and it allowed us to have a chance to win. But certainly things that we got to do better in all three phases and clean up, and hopefully we can do that this week. A couple things that I thought were to point out, scored on our first three possessions. That was really good. To get off to a fast start is one of the things that we had talked about offensively all week. Nick Folk, just to point out, he was fantastic in the field goal game this week. Tied his career long, 350-yarders. That's pretty impressive. I think our yardage total was the second most the Texans had given up. That's a good defense that we played, and we played well offensively for most of the game, even with some of the things that we did wrong. 40 rushing yards are the fewest allowed that we've allowed, and against a team that's very heavily centered on their run game being productive. So defensively, that was really encouraging to see that, to knock the run out. And then the guys that stepped up in reserve roles, Darryl Worley did a really nice job stepping in when Hook got sick, and Jarvis and Baker continued to play really well. Jerome Baker had a good game. And then I thought Kenneth Murray, sort of under the radar, had a really, really, really nice game as I watched it again last night and this morning. Just really thought he actually had switched positions too. We moved him over to the Mike and Jerome to the other spot, the dime backer, and I thought that really helped him as well. So that was good. Really, really good performance by a bunch of guys. So that two or three of those plays where there's part of the progression where you might find a way to get back to a guy that's either coming open or would be open. The other part of it too is just like you said, the awareness of, look, it's 1st and 10. Let's not take the sack. Just launch that thing out of bounds and let us live the fight without a loss and a sack. And again, those things there's a momentum feel to those things. There's a group morale thing when you're giving up sacks like that. Those things all factor in. So just take the heat off of those guys, and if you don't have it, throw it away. But those are all the things that we're still working through, and you see the improvement, and you see the things that he can still do better and help the offense out as a whole. And then there's a part of it where you start to figure out when and where you can create, and I think that part's coming for him.
So how do you attack coaching that? Is that grinding film with him and pointing out specific examples? Are you doing something in practice in particular?
You try to work it when you can. It's hard to simulate those things. But yeah, you try to point it out on tape as much as possible and find ways to drill it, that you can see if you can at least manufacture something that he can feel and draw on during a game. So that's all part of the process, and those are all things that Bo coaches on him a ton. Let me go back. You'd have to ask him. It certainly wasn't. It certainly didn't have the same aggression that the last one did. The other thing is that he really by spotting the defense, like, he should have already been there. That he's got to be under the goalpost in that particular coverage. So he's a little bit late getting to the spot, and whether he just didn't pull the trigger on the hit or wasn't as aggressive because of it, it's hard for me to say. you can let him answer that question. But I thought we had a chance to get a shot on that ball and see if you can get the receiver out of bounds or get the ball off the body, and ultimately didn't get that part done. No, I don't take any comfort in that. We have our own issues that we've got to do a good job of. Yesterday was hard for me to quantify. You know what I mean? Where we got a kickoff return bottled up. We got arms and bodies all over him, and he somehow squirts out of it and ends up being a huge play early in the game. And those are plays we're trying to eliminate. And then Q goes to aggressively field a punt and muffs it. And if those are the mistakes that we can't have, they're critical. But I certainly don't take any comfort in anybody else having special teams issues. I think we've made a lot of improvements. I think after that kickoff, we covered really well, and they started inside their own 20 twice on coverage. They were aggressive to take the ball out. But those things are things that we can't have if we want to be a really good football team. And anytime you turn the ball over in any phase is not good. So we got to find ways to continue to get better. I do think our punt coverage and our punt protection has really gotten better. We've done a really nice job covering. I think Bryce Oliver stepped up in a big way too in some of those gunner reps. But certainly things we got to be better at. And I don't take any solace or comfort in anybody else's mishaps. I just know that we got to play better than we have, and we can't have those errors. Yeah, I think it's less of debunking and more of confirming for us. We felt really good about the person. We felt really good about the background. We did our homework on him. He was vetted very, very, very thoroughly. And we came away with a player and a person that we really liked and thought he had all the right makeup. Some unfortunate circumstances might have led others to believe differently. But he's been everything that I thought he would be when we drafted him. And I think if you ask Rand, he'd feel the same way. He's a phenomenal person. He's a great personality. He plays hard. All the things that were sort of red flagged in him during the draft process were not things that we were as concerned about. And I think it's pretty awesome that he's confirmed for us that everything we believed in, he's given us and shown us, and that's really cool. And on top of that, we did a really good job, I think, organizationally putting a structure around him that allowed him to succeed. We worked really hard to make sure, from conditioning with Zach and the performance staff to Lauren and the nutrition, all of those things were all put in place for him. There was a structure in place for him to be successful, and he's taken advantage of it. And I think he's been everything I hoped he would be, and from a personality standpoint, as a person and as a player. No, that definitely wasn't his. That's the first time in a long time he's had a game where you noticed it. It wasn't his best game. I think he gave up the one sack early, and I think he had trouble sort of rebounding from it, and just kind of getting back into the flow of the game, and just kind of one of those games for a rookie, or going against a guy that he's played against and knows well. It was playing against a good player, and he got the better of him a few times, and those things happen. Guys get beat, but that game yesterday was not JC's best game by far, and need to be better than he was. 40% on third and long, you're doing all right. That's pretty dang good. We hit some big ones on the third and longs that didn't want to be there, and I think for the most part during the game we find ourselves into manageable spots. But when you get a chance to convert those long ones, those are sort of backbreaking too for a defense. When you give up a 3rd and 12 or a 3rd and 14 and you give up a 63-yard post route, those are kind of a punch in the gut on a defense. So being able to convert those was great. I would have liked to have not been in those spots as often as we were. We were trying not to be. But when you get in those spots, you got to make the most of it, and going 40% on 3rd and 7+ or whatever it was is a good day when you're in those spots. And again, we didn't want to be there, but I thought we executed well when we had to.